Hello everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood storyteller, Austin here or Luna. Today's story time, it's a good one, okay? I'm coming at you with a good story, because, I know a lot of you are just chilling at home today, hanging out, so thought I'd give you some entertainment. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy this. It's a crazy one. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. So for this to really make sense, we gotta go all the way back to the beginning. So, this all really starts off, technically, back when I was in 3rd grade. Yeah, just stay with me. It makes more sense as I go on. But in 3rd grade, I met this kid. All right, we'll just call him Henry. I met Henry in 3rd grade, and within talking to him for like 5 minutes, I knew this kid was going to be one of my best friends very quickly. You ever just meet somebody, whether it's in school or online or just anywhere in the world, right? And you just know within the first minute of talking to them that you have a ton in common, and you just know that you're probably gonna end up being really good friends. That's how me and Henry were. I met him, and within a minute of talking to him, I was like, oh shit, this dude's just like me. You know what I mean? We liked all the same bands, and we were talking about the same video games, and just really quickly I was like, all right, yeah, this dude's really cool. And sure enough, within the next couple of weeks, I was hanging out with Henry at school every single day, and hanging out outside of school very often. And he'd usually come to my house. I actually had not been to his house yet. But about a month later, after we had been friends for about a month, Henry actually invited me to sleep at his house. And I was like, yeah, sounds good. And he's like, just so you know, before you come over, my dad's a little bit strict. And I was like, that's okay, no big deal. And he only lived with his dad. His mom was not in the picture, so Henry and his dad just lived together alone. And I didn't really care that his dad was strict. I had tons of friends with strict parents, and it never really bothered me, because usually their parents were only strict if you were misbehaving to begin with. And I consider myself a pretty nice guy, pretty well-behaved person. Obviously, as a kid, you guys know I was a little bit of a shithead, but in terms of my politeness and my manners, I think I'm pretty good, and I'm a good guest. So I wasn't too worried, you know what I mean? I'd had tons of friends with strict parents, never really bothered me. So anyway, it came the day to sleep over at his house, and I went there, and I met him. I met his dad. And Henry was not lying. His dad was a strict motherfucker. I could tell, because the minute I walked into the house, his dad was like, take your shoes off, place them right there next to those ones, please wash your hands. He was really, really proper, very, very clean guy. And he didn't seem to smile very much. I noticed that very quickly. He was not a smiling kind of guy. And yeah, Henry told me that his dad was a police officer, and he had just started working as a police officer about a year prior. So that kind of explains some of the strictness. He's probably having a hard time turning off that strict police officer personality after he gets home from work. I don't know, right? But he wasn't a bad dude or anything. And other than a few minor things, he seemed pretty cool for the most part. And I slept over at Henry's house many, many times throughout the next few years. And let me be the first to say it, his dad only got stricter. I feel every single year, his dad didn't like me more and more. And I don't know why, because I feel every time I went there, I was a very good guest, and I didn't do anything wrong. That was until one day. So fast forward many years later, at this point, we're in high school, dude, okay? Me and Henry are both in high school. It was either freshman or 10th grade. And I was just doing my thing every day. At this point, I was doing YouTube and uploading pretty consistently. And me and Henry were still very good friends, and we would hang out at each other's houses all the time. Probably every other weekend at least, I would see him, and he would either come to my house or I'd go to his house. Mainly it was my house, just because his dad was pretty strict and my mom wasn't that strict, so we kind of going to my house. We could stay up later and, hang out more and just kind of be a little bit more free, Well, one day in high school, I'm in school, right? And I'm at lunchtime, and me and Henry sat at different tables. We were still good friends. We just had different friend groups in school. And Henry came up to my table during lunch and sat down for a sec. And he was like, yo, Austin, what are you up to this weekend? And I was like, absolutely nothing. And he's like, you want to kick it? And I was like, of course, bro. He's like, all right, your house or mine? And I was like, wherever you want, man. And he's like, you want to do my house this weekend? I was like, that's fine. So yeah, I had plans on this weekend to go to Henry's house and hang out there. Well, fast forward, Friday rolls around. It's time to go to Henry's house and spend the night there. I already talked to my mom about it. She was cool with it. She dropped me off. And upon arriving to Henry's house, I noticed something. There was a new car in the driveway. Yeah, it was like an SUV, but it didn't look like any other SUV. It was like blacked out. It had a computer on the middle console and the windows were kind of tinted, and it just looked a little bit cooler than your average SUV, and it definitely looked a little bit more modded out than your average SUV. And I put two and two together pretty fast. I was like, oh, that's an undercover cop car. Like, that's his dad's. And I remember I walked inside and I was like, yo, like, new car out there. That's sick. When did he get that? And he's like, oh, he actually just got that a few days ago. Like, he's been doing really well with the police and like he's in a much higher position than he once was. And he got that. So essentially, yeah, his dad's just been doing so good with the police force and working his way up, I guess, that he has that now. I don't know. I don't really know how it works over there, especially back then. But yeah, he had an undercover cop car now, which is pretty crazy. And, he was only allowed to use it for work. That's what Henry told me. I mean, it makes sense because it was literally a cop car pretty much. So yeah. But anyway, after that, I just, I went inside and we hung out for a little bit, a couple hours. And at dinner that night, I talked to Henry's dad about the new car. And I was asking him like how he's liking it. And he said it was pretty cool and that it's pretty fast. So that was cool, I guess. Well, fast forward to even later in the day. At this point, it's like 9 or 10 p.m. We're just hanging out in the basement. Henry's dad's about to go to bed. And Henry looks at me and he's like, yo, man, weird question, but like, do you know where I can get weed? Now, this shocked me. This blew my fucking mind because Henry was always that person growing up that was like, I will never smoke weed. I will never touch a cigarette. I will never touch a vape. I won't ever smoke anything. I won't put anything in my body that I'm not supposed to put in it. He was always that kind of dude that was like going to stay straight edge his whole life. And I had never seen him do anything ever. So when he said, do you know where I can get weed? It blew my mind. And I was like, Henry, are you okay? And he's like, I'm fine. I was like, bro, why do you want weed? He's like, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm getting curious. I kind of want to try it. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. I'm like, bro, given the fact that your dad is your dad, smoking weed might not be the best idea for you. I feel like that can end really badly. And he's like, bro, I won't get caught. I'll smoke somewhere where he won't be. Like, don't worry. Now, remember what Henry just said. Remember that, okay? For later. So after he says this, I'm like, well, yeah, I know where you can get some, but like, once again, man, be careful. And he's like, don't worry, I will. So I ended up giving him the number of someone I know that sold weed at the time, kind of a mutual friend of ours. He also went to our school. And Henry ended up texting him that night, asking him if he could buy some. And homie replied and was like, sure, when do you want to get it? And he said as soon as possible. And before we knew it, this plug was pulling up in the middle of the night at Henry's house outside in his neighborhood. And Henry was sneaking outside real quick and buying it. I couldn't believe he was doing it right then and there. I thought he was going to wait and maybe buy it like on a day where his dad wasn't home, when he was at work or something. But no, he just did it that night. And he didn't buy a lot. It was like a dub. It was like $20. And I forgot to mention, when the dude pulled up to sell him the weed, his dad was already in bed. Henry's dad was upstairs, like in bed already. So luckily he didn't get caught. So yeah, Henry came back in the house with the weed in his pocket, came downstairs, he showed it to me, and he ends up taking it into the back room of his basement. So his basement was like set up kind of weird. There was like this main area where there was like a couch and a TV, and then there was like a storage area, like back room area in his basement where he'd keep like all the Christmas decorations and stuff. And he went back there and he put the weed in the box that he had his Christmas tree in. And I mean, that seemed like an okay spot, you know. Christmas wasn't for quite a while, so I don't think his dad was going to be going in there anytime soon. And after he did that, Henry came back out into the little like main area, sat down next to me, and he was like, bro, I can't believe I just bought weed. And I was like, yeah, dude, me neither, motherfucker. Like, you're literally one of the most straight edge people I know. I can't believe you just bought weed. And he's like, I don't know, man. Like, I just have the itch. I want to try it at least once, see what it's like, see what the hype's about. And if it sucks, then it sucks, but I want to give it a shot. And I was like, fair enough, man. And then he asked me another question. He goes, would you want to try it with me? Now, I'd already tried it before, and he knew that. And I was like, well, I've already tried it. He's like, no, I didn't mean like you try it for the first time. I just meant like, do you want to be there for my first time? And I was like, oh, yeah, of course, dude. He's like, do you want to smoke with me? And I was like, sure. And he goes, what if we just do it tonight? Keep in mind, we had nothing to smoke with. He didn't have a pipe, a bowl, a bong, a lighter even. And also, there was a police officer sleeping in the room upstairs who was very strict. So I was like, I don't think that's a good idea, man. Your dad's home. If he wakes up and catches us and we're both high, it will not be a good time. He's like, yeah, I mean, you're probably right. Guess we'll plan for some other time then. And I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. So yeah, we just decided like, all right, we're not going to do it on that night. We'll do it sometime down the line when we can, you know, be less paranoid and when his dad's not around and when we have things to smoke with, right? Like some sort of bong or something. And after that, we just went back to playing our video games, and we were just going to be, chilling down there for the night, playing our games. We had to keep it kind of quiet, because if his dad woke up and heard us, he'd get pissed and be like, go to bed. So we're just down there, like, kind of quietly playing our games, right? And about 30 to 40 minutes later, Henry looks at me and he goes, bro, I want to smoke that weed. And it really reminded me of me when, like, it was my first time. And I was like, dude, I get it. I really do. But, like, yo, your dad is your dad, and he will freak out. Like, I really don't think it's a good idea to do it tonight. And he's like, all right, fine. And we go back to playing games again. We were playing some skate. And he looks over at me like 10 minutes later and he's like, all right, man, fuck it. I'm smoking tonight. Let's do it. And I was like, bro, are you sure? Because if we get caught, it's over. And he's like, we won't get caught. Trust me. And I was like, all right, man, I'm trusting you. And he's like, do you know how to like make a bong or like make a pipe or something to smoke out of? And I was like, yeah, actually I do. Do you have an apple here? He's like, yeah. And I went upstairs and I made an apple pipe, like out of an apple to smoke out of. And it was good to go. But then there was another problem. We didn't have a lighter. So I was like, Henry, like, do you have a lighter anywhere? Like, I don't have one. He's like, hold on, I think we might have one like in the kitchen. And he goes into the kitchen and he finds this old, like, long Bic lighter that was used to like light birthday candles or some shit. And it still worked. It had some juice in it. And he's like, does this work? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And he hands it to me. And it was go time. It was time to smoke. So we went in the basement. We grabbed the weed. And I look at Henry and I was like, all right, where do you want to smoke this? Because we can't do it inside. If we do it inside, it's over. He's like, let's just sneak out in the backyard. I have a pretty big backyard. We can just go behind the shed. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. So we sneak out the back door and we like run to the shed very quietly. Quiet running, right? And we get in the back behind the shed and we start smoking. We pack the bowl, start smoking, and it didn't take a lot for either of us to feel it. Henry had no tolerance, so he was gone very quick. As for me, I also didn't really have a tolerance because I hadn't smoked in a while, so also felt it very quickly. And we actually ended up like only smoking half the weed. Yeah, out of like the $20 worth he bought, we only smoked about half of it. So pretty crazy that our tolerances weren't that high. And afterwards, we went back inside, we snuck back downstairs, and we did it. Like, we didn't get caught. We were like back downstairs. The weed was back in its hiding spot. The apple was disposed of. We threw it in the woods behind his house. It was gone, right? It was done. I thought we couldn't possibly get caught and that we were just gonna have a nice night. Now, after this happened, okay, after we got back downstairs, we quickly realized how high we really were. Like, I don't know, like back in the day when I used to smoke outside, sometimes it'd be like so cold that I didn't really feel the high that much. And then I'd get inside and I'd warm up and I'd be like, oh, like I am cooked. Like, this is bad. And that's exactly what happened to me and Henry. Like, we got inside and after like everything was all settled and squared away, we sat down on the couch in the basement and we were like, oh shit, dude. And we just started laughing at each other, like giggling like fucking little girls. And yeah, we just went back to playing skate. And for about 30, 40 minutes or so, life was good. Life was great. Things were good. And then, like, I don't know, maybe an hour goes by, and it's kind of starting to wear off. Henry looks at me, and he goes, I want to smoke again. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like, now? Or, like, later? Tomorrow? Like, what do you want to do? He's like, nah, bro. Now. And I was like, okay, sure. I can make another, like, apple pipe thing. He's like, bet. So I go upstairs, and I make another one, and I tiptoe back downstairs, and I'm like, all right, I got it. I'm ready to go. He's like, all right, I got the weed. And he's like, bro, I have an idea. And I was like, what is it? And he goes, I want it to be a surprise. And I was like, okay. Don't really like the sound of that, but okay. He's like, all right, follow me. So we go upstairs. We go outside real quietly in the backyard again. And this time he walks around the back of his house to like the side. And then he walks to the driveway and he goes, close your eyes. And I go, okay. And I close my eyes and he like gets behind me and starts like pushing me forward, like walking me with him. And I can feel like that we're on his driveway. We're walking down the driveway. And then I bump into a car. Like I literally bump into it. And he's like, oh, be careful. And I was like, my bad. And he goes, all right, we're here. And then I start hearing keys jingling. And then I hear a door open. And I open my eyes. I'm like, all right, what is he doing? And he is opening the door to his father's undercover police car. And I was like, Henry, what the fuck are you doing? He goes, bro, let's just get in it. Let's take 2 hits, and then we'll get out, and we'll go smoke the rest behind the shed. I just think it'd be hilarious to say we smoked in a cop car. And I was like, Henry, that is the fucking dumbest thing I have ever heard you say. I don't know if it's the weed talking or if you're just extra stupid tonight, but what the fuck are you talking about? Because, like, bro, this was stupid. Like, this was so stupid. Like, the weed must have been talking or something, because, like, I had never heard him have such a terrible idea in my life. But he was like, listen, dude, either you're with me or I'm doing it alone. And he proceeds to start getting in the car. He starts sitting down and, like, grabbing the apple. And I was like, oh my, fine. And I was like, hurry up, let's do it. And we get in the car. He closes the door very quietly. We both take 2 hits. And I was like, okay, let's get out. And he goes, nah, man, let's just do the whole thing in here. And I was like, Henry, this is dumb, bro. Like, no, this is so dumb. He's like, come on, man. And he takes a 3rd hit, and he hands it to me, and I take a 3rd hit. And before I know it, we did the whole thing in there. We smoked the whole bowl. And the weed was gone, and it was time to get out. So I was like, all right, let's go. Let's get out. And we quickly get out. We close the door. We sneak back into his house. We go downstairs. And once again, we made it back in one piece. We somehow didn't get caught. He didn't wake up. And I thought, okay, we're good, right? It's done. Now, the rest of that night was very normal, very fun. We just played COD, played some Halo, some Skate, just played everything and kind of just quietly enjoyed our high and just played some Xbox. And everything was great until the next morning. So the next morning, we wake up and we smell breakfast cooking, right? So me and Henry get up and we walk upstairs into the kitchen. And Henry's dad's making breakfast, and he turns around and he goes, good morning, boys. You guys slept in. Missed the whole morning almost. And I was like, yeah, we were pretty tired. He goes, what did you guys get up to last night? And obviously, I didn't say what we really did. I was like, oh, we just played games, played some Xbox. He goes, yeah, how late were you guys up? And Henry's like, not very late. I don't know, like midnight or so. That was bullshit. And his dad's like, oh, okay, well, breakfast is done. Like, eat up. Now, Henry's dad was a fire-ass cook, man. He made everything, and every time he cooked something, that shit was good. And on this day, he did not hold back. He made everything, bro. There was pancakes, waffles, sausage, bacon, eggs, fucking hash browns. Anything you could think of for breakfast was there. And yeah, we ate real good on this morning. Now, after we get done eating, his dad says he has to go outside because he forgot something in his cruiser, his undercover car. And his dad goes to grab the keys off the coat hook, and they're not there. He goes, what the hell? Where are my keys? And I look over at Henry, and Henry looks like he's shitting himself. And I know what's going on. Henry forgot to put his fucking keys back on the hook. Yeah, his dad's keys to his undercover cop car was not in the right place where he left him, which obviously meant somebody moved them. Henry. Now, Henry tries to, like, nonchalantly play it off like he doesn't know, like, where they are. And his dad ends up finding them, like, 2 minutes later. He found them on, like, the back counter of the kitchen over by the fridge. And he goes, like, I didn't leave these here. Henry, did you touch my keys? And Henry's like, no, I didn't touch them, Dad. And he's like, are you sure? Like, I would never leave these here. Like, they're always on the hook. And Henry's like, I didn't move them. And his dad's like, okay. And his dad just kind of like moves on from it, right? He doesn't really like press the issue, doesn't really question him or anything. Kind of just moves on from it, grabs his keys, goes outside to grab whatever he needed out of the car. And then things get interesting. His dad comes in and goes, Henry, can I talk to you for a sec? And Henry's like, sure, Dad. And he goes, come here. And he brings him around to like the other room. And they're in the living room talking, and I can hear them very clearly. They were not being very quiet. I heard his dad go, Henry, what the hell is this? And then Henry's like, I don't know, Dad. Like, I'm not sure. And he goes, are you sure? Because who else would have access to my car besides you and Austin? And he goes, I don't know. It's not mine. But here's the problem. He doesn't say it's not Austin's either. So then his dad goes, oh, so did Austin leave it in there? And Henry's like, I don't know. And I'm like, motherfucker. And then his dad walks into the kitchen and he goes, Austin, can you come here? And I was like, sure. And I walk into the living room and his dad holds out his hand and there's a little piece of like weed ash. And he goes, I found this on my back seat in my car. Were you guys out there last night messing around, smoking cigarettes or something? And I was like, no, we didn't smoke any cigarettes, which was the truth. We didn't smoke any cigarettes. And then he takes the ash and he puts it up to his face and he like inhales, he like smells it. And he's like, anything else you guys might have been smoking out there? And now we're kind of shitting ourselves. And Henry and me both just nod our heads no. And he goes, guys, this smells like weed. If I find out that you smoked weed in the back of my cruiser, I'm going to lose it bad. And now we're definitely shitting ourselves because that's exactly what we did. And he goes, all right, I'm going to ask one more time. And I'm going to give you, and he points to Henry, the chance to be honest with me. You're my son. I taught you not to lie, and I want the truth. Did you and your buddy smoke weed in my cruiser last night? And Henry looks at me and looks back at his dad and then looks back at me. And his dad's like, don't look at Austin. Look at me. Tell me the truth. Did you guys smoke weed out there last night or anything? And Henry goes, no, Dad, we didn't. And he goes, okay, so if I check our security cameras, I'm not going to see you guys out there? And immediately my heart drops into my stomach. And I'm thinking to myself, he has fucking security cameras and Henry didn't tell me? And then Henry responds to his dad. He's like, no, you won't see anything. His dad goes, okay, I'm going to go check him right now. And he starts walking into the back computer room, the office. And he leaves us there, standing there. And I look over at Henry and I was like, Henry, your fucking dad has security cameras out front and you didn't think to say anything or take that into account before we went out there and smoked? And he goes, dude, don't worry. They don't look at the car. They don't look in that direction. It's mainly the sides of the house. He won't see anything. And I was like, are you sure? He goes, yes, bro. Don't worry. We're fine. I definitely took that into account. And I was like, okay. And I believed him. Well, about 5 minutes later, we hear Henry's dad go, hey, guys, come in here real quick. Come into the computer room. And we go in there, and he has the security camera footage pulled up. And guess what? The camera is looking right at the fucking car. Perfectly. It is pointed right at the car. And I was like, oh, no. And on the camera, you see me and Henry walk up to the car, get inside of it, sit in there for 10 to 15 minutes, and then get out and leave. So we were caught. We were caught red-handed. And Henry, instead of being like, oh, sorry, we lied, or oh, sorry, yeah, we did do what you said we did, he just goes, Dad, did you move the security cameras? They didn't used to look in that direction. And his dad's like, yeah, Henry, I moved the cameras when I got the new cruiser to make sure no one messes with it. And I'm glad I did because look who's messing with it, you and your buddy. And Henry's like, oh, okay. And his dad's like, Austin, call your mom, you're going home. And I was like, okay. So I called my mom. She came and picked me up. I quickly walked outside, got in the car, and we left because I knew if we stayed too long or if she tried to come inside and talk to Henry's dad, I'd be cooked. I knew that she would find out what happened. So I just got in the car really fast and left without saying goodbye. And that didn't work, unfortunately, because later that night, none other than Henry's dad called my mom up and told her everything that happened. And later that night, my mom came into my room and was like, hey, so Henry's dad just called me and said that you guys smoked pot in his police car. Is this true? And I was like, yes. And she goes, you are something else. Are you fucking dumb? And I was like, yes. And she goes, yeah, I can see that. She's like, don't worry. Me and him are talking. You guys are going to get punished for this. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And I'm just kind of accepting my doom at that point. I knew that I was going to get in a shit ton of trouble, probably grounded for months on end. But actually, no. So my mom and Henry's dad conversed, and they came up with a plan to punish both of us at the same time. And this shit sucked. So what they ended up doing was later on that year, when summer rolled around, they sent me and Henry to a summer camp, a Christian summer camp that let you have no phones and no technology and no contact with the outside world besides through writing letters. And it was for 2 weeks. And this wasn't a fun summer camp either. This was oh, you're a bad kid, you go here summer camp. This shit sucked so bad. You were in a cabin with 15 other kids that were all there for, being bad or misbehaving. You had to get up every morning at 7 in the morning, go to church, and then after that, you spent the rest of the day doing some kind of bullshit, whether it was working on something or exercising with the rest of your camp members. Literally the only fun thing we got to do there the entire 2 weeks was one of the days we got to play volleyball. That was it. That was the one fun thing they let us do. Other than that, it was just going to church every morning and then doing nothing all day that was fun. It was just working on stuff, whether that be like helping build shit out of wood, or at one point we had to like help repaint one of the like gazebos there. It was really weird. And the story time doesn't end here, okay? I wish I could say, oh, I just went to this camp and it sucked and I powered through it and got through it and then went home and it was over with. No, this shit sucked too bad. I couldn't stand it, and I got about a week and a half into it, and I was losing my mind, guys. I'm not even kidding. Like, I was literally waking up every morning, the most depressed I'd ever been, the most, like, insane I've ever felt, because I had no contact with the outside world, and all I had was Henry with me, but we could barely talk to each other, because if we got caught talking to each other, they would move you away from each other, and pretty much the only people I could talk to was the camp counselors and the staff there, and if I wanted to, I could write letters to my mom. That was it. So I was losing my mind, and I woke up about a week and a half into it, and I thought, you know what? Fuck this. I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving. I'm sneaking out. So I woke up, and I came up with a plan. I was like, okay, today during church, at like 7:38 in the morning, when it's like towards the end, I'm going to like say I have to go to the bathroom. I'm going to step out of the building and just fucking book it. I'm going to run away. So I went to church, got through most of it, got up, told my counselor I have to use the bathroom. He said, okay, pointed to where it was. And instead of going to the bathroom doors, I walked out the main doors. And the second I got outside, I fucking booked it. I started running so fast, the fastest I've ever ran in my damn life, without looking back. And as I'm running, and I'm heading past the cabins towards the main road to get the fuck off this campsite, I hear someone yell, hey, come back. And I turn around, and it's one of like the camp like counselor people. It wasn't my counselor, it was a different one. And he's chasing after me fast as fuck, and I'm running faster, and I'm running up to the main exit, and the people that worked the gate saw me coming, and they start closing the fucking gate. They start closing it. It was like a big tall fence. And I was like, yo, what the fuck is this place, a prison? So I took a detour. I ran to my left, and I ran into the woods behind the camp, because I knew if I ran far enough into these woods that eventually I'd probably hit a main road. So I just ran into the woods as fast as I possibly could, and I just kept running and running and running until I didn't hear anything else behind me. No sounds of twigs snapping, no sounds of yelling. And yeah, I probably ran a good mile into these woods without looking back until I stopped, and I turned around and I was just catching my breath, and nobody was behind me. I outran that counselor, didn't see anybody else, so I just thought, okay, I'm going to catch my breath and just keep walking in the same direction until I hit a main road. And that's what I did. I just kept walking and walking and walking and walking. And at this point, I've probably walked 3 miles deep into these woods, maybe 4, and I am nowhere near civilization. I'm still just deep in these woods, and I'm starting to feel a little bit insane. Because, like, I have no water, I'm sweating, it's hot out, I'm so fucking thirsty, I have no idea where I'm going, I don't even know if I'm going to find a road, I just thought that that's what would happen if I kept going the same direction, and, yeah, I honestly felt like I was going to die, not going to lie. I was like, yo, if I don't find my way out of here in the next, like, 8 to 10 hours, I'm going to die in here, so I should probably start moving quicker, which was obviously a terrible idea, because I was going to exert more energy doing that, but I was like, whatever, I got to get out of here. So I started walking faster, and I started jogging, then I ran a little bit more, and sure enough, after fucking 20 to 30 minutes of that, still no road. And it felt like I was just getting deeper into these woods with nothing. Now, I ended up wandering around in these woods for another hour or so before I just sat down and kind of like put my head in my hands and like just chilled for a sec, because I was so tired and so out of it. And I remember sitting on this tree stump in the middle of the woods that was like rotting. It was like on the ground. And I sat down and I just like sat there for probably a good 20 minutes, just hot, exhausted, depressed, hopeless. And I start smelling something. It smells like bonfire. And I was like, wait a minute. Are there people nearby? Like, am I near civilization right now? Like, is this my sign? And I look up, and in the distance to the left, I see campfire smoke. And I was like, holy shit. And I start following it. And very quickly, within like 4 to 5 minutes, I find these 2 campers. There was a girl and a boy. They were probably dating, young, probably 19, 20 years old. And they're just chilling. They got their lawn chairs. They got a campfire, a tent. They got beer, water, fucking picnic supplies. And I was like, guys, I'm lost. Can you please point me in the direction of where like civilization is? And this guy's like, yeah, man, of course. If you just go that way, and he pointed. He's like, if you just go that way for like 10, 15 minutes, you'll find a parking lot where our cars are. And if you follow that road about a mile, there's a town. And I was like, thank you. And he goes, do you want some water or something? I was like, please. He's like, of course, dude. Here, sit down. And he like sat me down and like gave me a water and let me chill for a second with them. And he was asking me like where I came from, like where I'm supposed to be. And I told him, I was like, I was at this summer camp. It was horrible. I snuck out. I'm trying to get home. And then he's like, dude, why don't you let me call somebody? Like, let me call your parents or something. I was like, nah, man, don't call my parents because they're just going to come pick me up and bring me right back over there for the rest of the week. I am not doing it. He's like, all right, well, like, you got to call someone, man. You can't just be wandering around by yourself. Like, you're a kid. And I was like, I'm fine, man. Trust me. He's like, dude, no, I'm not letting you leave these woods without someone coming to get you. Like, you need to have someone come get you. And I was like, all right, fine. Give me your phone. I'll call somebody. So he gives me his phone, and I called up my older brother. I was like, hey, man, I snuck out of that camp. I'm not going back. If I call mom, she'll just come bring me back. So I thought I'd call you. He's like, dude, what the fuck? I was like, I know, I'm sorry. He's like, where are you? And I was like, I don't know. 1 second. And I asked this guy, I was like, hey, man, like, what are we near right now? And he goes, the campgrounds are called this. So I gave my brother the campground name, and my brother looked it up on the computer, and he's like, dude, you are literally so far away. This is going to take me forever to get to you. Like, hang out there for a little bit. It's going to be at least 45 minutes. I'm like, okay. So, yeah, I waited 45 minutes, and then I went to that parking lot the guy told me about, and sure enough, my brother was parked right there in these, like, campgrounds parking lot. And I walk up to his car, I get in the car with him, and we start driving back to my house. And he's like, so what's your plan when we get home, man? Because we're going to get home, and mom's going to be there, and she's going to see that you're not at camp, and then just want to take you right back. So what's the plan? And I was like, well, I'm going to go in the house. I'm going to tell her that I'm not going back. And if she tries to take me back, I'm running away. And he's like, dude, that is a terrible idea. And I was like, I don't care. I am not going back to that camp. And he's like, whatever, man. So we get back to my mom's house, and I walk in, and she's in the kitchen washing dishes, and she sees me walk in, and she goes, what the hell are you doing here? And I was like, I ran away from camp. She goes, what? How? I was like, I ran away. And she's like, and you picked him up? And she pointed at my brother, and he was like, yeah, he called me from some random camper's phone in the middle of the woods and gave me the campground name, so I went and got him. And she goes, okay, get in the car, we're going back. And I said, absolutely not, no, we are not. And she goes, yes, you are. You need to learn there's consequences for your actions. You're going back. And I was like, nope, I'm not. And she goes, Austin, you either go back to this camp for the last few days or you get grounded for 3 months. And I go, honestly, I would rather be grounded for 3 months in the comfort of my own home than to ever go back to that camp for a day. That shit sucked. And she goes, okay, make it 4 months then. 4 months, you're grounded. And I was like, but you said 3. She goes, I don't care, it's 4 now. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I end up going into my room and I sit down and I tried turning on my TV to watch TV, and then she came into the room like 10 minutes later and just unplugged it and took the cord. And she's like, you're grounded. That means no TV. And I was like, okay. And I'm sitting there in my room trying to like read a book and like zone out. When about 20 minutes later, my mom comes back into the room and she was like, so you just like ran away? And I was like, yeah, I ran into the woods. And she's like, I'm trying to call them right now and like ask what happened and like get their side of the story, but they're not answering. So tell me what happened. And I was like, I went to church at the camp and then I ran out of there into the woods. And I ran and I ran and I ran, and eventually I found these campers and called my brother, and yeah, now I'm here. And she goes, what about Henry? You just left him there? I was like, yeah, what was I supposed to do? Convince him to sneak out with me and then get in more trouble with his dad that's already strict as hell? Like, no, I'm not going to convince him to do that. Like, if I convinced Henry to do that, his dad probably would have put him up for adoption or something. And she was like, so he has no idea that you left? And I was like, well, he probably knows now. The staff probably said something about me sneaking out. And she's like, I'm going to call his dad. So she comes back in like 10 minutes later and she goes, guess what, Austin? 20 minutes after you ran away, Henry ran away. Yeah, you must have inspired him. So now he's on the run. He's missing and he's not home yet. His dad has no idea where he is, neither does the camp. And I was like, oh, shit. So now I'm kind of worried because Henry is in the woods probably, just like I was, lost. And I'm hoping like he's okay and isn't like super lost or anything. And I'm freaking out now, right? Because I wanted to sneak out of that camp and get the hell out of there, but Henry also doing that alone, I felt bad. Part of me was like, man, maybe I should have like convinced him to come with me so that we could have like left together. Or, like maybe I should have just not left and this all wouldn't have happened. And then I spent the next like 45 minutes to an hour just hoping that they would find Henry and he'd be okay and not lost in the woods in the nighttime, you know? And as time went on, there was just no luck. Nobody was finding him. No one had seen him. His dad hadn't seen him. I guess his dad went over there to like look for him with the camp counselors, and I think the cops got called, and just nobody could find him, right? Well, like 7 or 8 hours later, at this point, it's literally nighttime. My mom's like in her room watching TV. I'm in my bed, still reading a book, just like trying to zone out, still very paranoid, still very worried about, Henry. When all of a sudden I hear the weirdest, like lightest tapping sound on my window. It sounds like this. And I was like, what the fuck? And I like peeked through my blinds and I see Henry looking sweaty as hell, just like so out of it. And I open the window and I'm like, Henry, what the fuck are you doing here, dude? He's like, bro, I stole a bike from someone's house in some neighborhood out there, and I rode a bicycle all the way back here. Keep in mind, guys, this camp, like this like summer camp we got sent to, was fucking far. It was like 40 minutes by car. So think about how far that is by a bicycle. Like that's a lot of biking. It makes sense why it took him multiple hours to get out to our area. And he goes, bro, like I didn't know where to go. I didn't want to go back home because my dad's just gonna fucking like, freak out. I just figured you're the best place to go, so I'm here. And I was like, all right, listen, bro, come in through the window. I'm not gonna tell anyone you're here. You could like sleep in my closet or something. I'm gonna go get you some fresh clothes, some water, some food, because I know you're probably starving. He's like, yeah, man. And I was like, all right, come in. So he comes into my window, he like climbs in, and he goes into my closet, and I close the door, and then I go out to the kitchen, I make a sandwich, grab a huge thing of water, a Gatorade as well. I bring it back in, I give it to him through the closet door, I close it, and I just went back to sitting in my bed reading a book. And like a minute later, my mom came in the room and she goes, still no trace of Henry. Like, this is bad, Austin. Like, this is really bad. And now I'm at like kind of a crossroads here. Because on one hand, I don't want Henry's dad to think that Henry is like dead. So of course, I want to say something that Henry's safe. But on the other hand, if I tell my mom that Henry's safe, she's going to call up his dad. His dad's going to come over and pick him up and then probably take him home and take everything he loves and smash it in front of him and make him even more miserable than his day has already been, right? So I just said this. I was like, look, I may or may not have heard from Henry. He's fine. And she goes, what? Where is he? I was like, he's fine. I'm not going to tell on him because I don't think his dad's going to be very nice to him, but he's fine. And she goes, Austin, you have to let me know. Like, if he's somewhere that's not safe, we need to go get him. I'm like, no, he's safe. Don't worry. And she's like, Austin, where is he? And I was like, don't worry, he's safe. And as we're talking, my dog walks in the room. My fucking little Yorkie Terrier that my mom used to have. She walks in the room and she walks right up to my closet door and starts getting really excited and sniffing the door and like pouncing at it and stuff because she can fucking smell that Henry's in there. And my mom goes, what's in your closet? And I was like, oh, I don't know, probably just like some old food or something. Like she probably just wants food. My mom's like, why do you have food in your closet? I was like, I don't know. Maybe it's not food. I don't know. She goes, Austin, open your closet. And I was like, no. And she goes, why? What are you hiding? And she walks over there and she opens it and she sees Henry sitting on the ground eating a sandwich. And she goes, what the fuck? And Henry's like, hey, Austin's mom, like, I'm here. And I start laughing. And my mom goes, Henry, what the fuck are you doing here? Your dad, the camp counselors, everyone's been looking for you. Like, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, I just got here. I rode my bike and tapped on the window and Austin let me in. I've only been here for a little bit. And she goes, we got to tell your dad you're here. And he's like, okay, if you have to, but I don't want to go over there tonight. Like, if you can you try and convince him to let me stay here tonight? I just want one more night of like peace before I have to go home and get, my life ruined. And she's like, okay. So my mom called his dad, and I don't know how. My mom's like a very convincing lady, I guess. But she convinced his strict-ass dad to let Henry stay one night at our house, and then like he can come get him tomorrow and ground him or whatever, right? So that's what happened. He got to spend the night at my house. We had a nice, well, not a nice one, but we had a sleepover. And the next day, Henry's dad pulled up, picked him up, didn't really say a word to me or to my mom, just picked him up and took him back home. And I wasn't able to hang out with Henry for, no joke, 6 fucking months after this. He got grounded for 6 months. And not just like not able to hang out with people. He got cut off from hanging out with people. He couldn't play Xbox, couldn't have his phone. He couldn't do anything besides go to school. That was it. Anytime he wasn't in school, he was just at home, sitting in silence, reading books, and probably like watching whatever his dad was watching on TV. That was it. So, yeah, he was grounded pretty bad. As for me, yeah, I also got grounded for quite a while. That 4 months my mom was talking about, she wasn't kidding. It was 4 months. Now, do I think it was as bad as Henry's? No. I was still able to like kind of watch TV and stuff when I wanted to, and you know, I was able to like play games once in a while. When my mom was feeling nice, she let me have my Xbox back for a couple nights. But in terms of like my phone and shit, that was gone. I left my phone at the camp when I ran away, and my mom went to pick it up like the next day, and I didn't get that back for 4 months. So yeah, that kind of sucked. But overall, like just a wild, wild experience. Like we literally got caught by his dad for smoking in his fucking police car. And then later on that year when the summer hit, we had to go to this like summer camp for bad kids, and we snuck out, and it was just insane. There was so many little stories in this one story that are insane in my opinion. I thought you guys would enjoy hearing about it. But that's the end. All in all, when all was said and done, many months later, we were both okay, and me and Henry are still friends to this day. So in the end, I'd say everything was good. But yeah, guys, that's the end of the story time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely a crazy one. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.